A few months ago, a European bank discovered that one of their internal AI assistants had quietly rewritten certain workflows. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but it had the assumption that it had the authority to optimize. Something that started as a project, an experiment around productivity, quickly turned into an uncontrolled chain of decisions that were automated. Not very good, of course. No firewall blocked it, no SOC was triggered. It was just a silent drift. That's the new reality. The threats that we encounter today are not only knocking on our door, they are also emerging from within our company. My name is Chris Beuckeleers, and I'm the sales director for Proximus Next. And I'm today here with Jesper Olsen, CSO EMEA of Palo Alto Networks. Jesper will take us through the prepare for new threats and their vision around that. At Proximus Next, our position is straightforward and very clear. AI adoption without AI security is an operational debt. Our responsibility is to enable innovation without creating blind spots. Jesper will unpack the threats, the landscape, the shifts in architecture, and will also give us an insight in the controls to stay ahead. Jesper, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. And thank you, Proximus, however way you're faced and represented here, for having this great event. Truly remarkable to arrive and walk through all of this. It's fantastic. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, and thank you all for coming. That thing about AI, right? Now we just heard one scenario. There are so many scenarios to choose from right now that poses risk to the business. And hopefully I can give you a bit of a perspective on why do we need to talk about this and why do we need to treat it just a little bit different than different risk or other risk, old risks, you could almost call it, the traditional business risk. So it's going to be to the line beneath, prepare for new threats. It's about knowing your AI situation now because AI is here. Accept it, embrace it. Whatever you do with it, it's going to be here anyway, right? So we might as well get a bit of understanding on it. But I want to start off with part of my role as a Chief Security Officer in Palo Alto Networks is I get the privilege and honor to talk to a lot of organizations. So over the course of a year in the team, we're 5 in the team, we have about 3,200 conversations with the different executives. And this is derived from some of those conversations. These are the top strategic organizational priorities that we learn from them. It's about operational efficiency, that's typically number 1. Then number 2 and 3, the customer-centric and the resilience sometimes interchange, but it's typically in the middle. Number 4 is around cost reduction flexibility. Or like I like to call it, because it has a bit more positive ring to it, I call it cost excellence exercises. And it's easier to get people onboarded, especially in the board of directors. When you start talking about cost reduction, everybody starts going, ooh, again. So talking about cost excellence is sometimes better. All of these areas, by the way, tie into AI use cases. And that's, we have the great promise of what AI can do, right? We can cure cancer. We can reverse global warming. We can eradicate hunger. We can pretty much do everything with AI. No, we cannot. That is not what we're seeing happening, right? We really strongly believe now that AI needs a proper reality check. Let's go out of the hype for just a few seconds and talk about what AI really is. AI is, for a lot of organizations, a huge failure if you only look at return on investment. 95% of the use cases that have been already tried and tested in global enterprises have failed in terms of showing the return on investment. And if you look at the total investment done, around $40 billion in this space, that means $38 billion is more or less down the drain. Because one thing we're also not very good at is sharing our failures. We're very good at sharing success. We love sharing, look at how great we are and what great things we're doing. But we really want, and especially around AI, really want to push organizations forward in also sharing about failures. Because a lot of us need to learn, and we need to learn quickly. But it's not all bad, it's also good things, right? This is what we're seeing right now. There are realistic progress being made in a lot of areas. Fraud detection in real time in financial institutions. Recently, there was an update to how AI can be used to look at X-ray pictures, high-resolution X-ray pictures. So instead of having a very large data set, you now have an AI solution that can look at high-resolution X-ray pictures and not just determine whether or not you're prone to breast cancer, but actually dictate a timeline for when it would potentially occur unless other conditions change. Last Friday, though, there was another update to that, and they found out that because it uses optical image recognition, there's also an environmental condition to take in and factor into the results. So under certain temperature levels and moisture levels, there was only a 50% accuracy. Under other temperature and moisture levels, there was a 90% accuracy. I'm telling you this because if you are in manufacturing, for instance, and you want to use AI-based solutions on the factory floor, it matters if you have sun coming in the windows all of a sudden. That's the level we're at right now. But there are a lot of good progress going on. And if we start by sharing this, hopefully we can progress even further. There's also a lot of progress going on in terms of what we can do with AI as humans and also in the cybercrime space. Cybercriminals have found a way to generate AI images like we do, like we think it's fun. Some of us, at least, I do. My girls, 18 and 21, they love pandas and they love scrolling and they love clicking on panda pictures so they can see the full picture. This example contains AI-generated malware inside of it as well. So if you click on it, it will automatically run malware on your device. That's fun, or different kind of fun. It's an interesting challenge to also have to be concerned about as well, right? That AI can now produce a lot of the material that the cybercriminals, they're using every day. And we know it's going to be there, as I said in the beginning, right? ZDNet wrote an article in the springtime, 93% of IT leaders is going to implement AI agents. CyberArk has done a survey and they figured out, and actually that number has changed already, that for every one human identity, there's 80 machine identities. That number is actually up to 82 now, and it continues to grow as more and more organizations move into the agentic AI. What is also interesting is how we look at it. And I could talk about two areas today, but I'm going to focus on security for AI, not AI for security. So how we secure AI solutions in our organizations. And I'm going to answer 3 questions for you. Why do AI agents increase cyber risk? It's not the same old risks that we've talked about always. And business leaders have to understand this. There are new risks coming. And then how do we secure the AI agents that we are going to see popping into our environment? Either we develop them themselves or we use what I call borrowed tech. So we contract our way out of getting technology into our ecosystems. Borrowed tech. Someone else's responsibility in creating the security frameworks around it and ensuring that it consistently throughout the entire life cycle is secure. And then finally, I'll give you a few takeaways on what I think you should prioritize now. So if you start with the first one, why do they increase cyber risk? Well, I don't know how technical you are, so I'm just going to assume that you're not necessarily all technical, but you do know a bit about how an architecture can look like. So for an application, traditionally, we would talk about there's probably a web front something, a web page or something. There's an application layer, the business logic in there. You have the data sets and it connects to and maybe manipulates. And then you have some infrastructure that it relies on to be able to run and execute the things that it's supposed to. Very classic. If you take that step forward, now you look at AI-powered applications or AI-driven or AI-enabled. You hear a lot of stuff from the tech industry, right? Then it expands a bit into that architecture. It reshapes it somehow. Now you have new areas that you need to focus on, like the large language models. Maybe even, this is a term I heard just a couple of days ago, they were talking about small language models. I didn't even think in that direction yet, but now I am. And potentially that will grow into the infrastructure as well. It's just going to be one of those components that we manage every day as part of daily operations. But what about a GPU stack, for instance? Not a lot of enterprises are ready to take in a full set of new type of hardware that is managed differently than the rest of the hardware. And when it comes to AI apps, this is just a different way of depicting it, a bit more technical as well. You can see that there's a lot of connections going on. There's a lot of opportunities. If you see it from a cyber criminal mindset approach, you would be looking at all of these connections as integration points you can exploit, potentially. And that means there's a lot of risk built into the architecture that we're typically not looking at. I could phrase this another way as well, that if you haven't changed anything in your security stack in the past 5 years, you're most certainly not looking at this because this wasn't there 5 years ago. So that's a different way of looking at it, right? And whether we talk about prompt injection, model denial of service attacks, whatever it is we're talking about, a lot of new words coming in. We're not done, unfortunately. But I want to give you the business side example of it as well. So in a different view, this is how insecure outputs would look. Imagine if you build an application and you offer it to customers, and all of a sudden it's able to return malicious outputs. Because what happens in a two-dimensional world, I'll take out my phone, not because I need to do something special with it, but just to highlight. I live in a two-dimensional world. I see something on the screen. I inherently, as a human, trust the output. And I see the same thing happening with employees, my daughters, everybody around me. They inherently trust the output. This is the same thing that's going on with ChatGPT. A lot of people now start questioning how relevant and how valid the output, but you don't question the links it creates for you, typically. You just click it and trust it. So what if a cyber criminal has changed it to a malicious URL? What if they can talk to it in different ways? I heard the CISO of Zalando talk the other day on stage, and she was presenting how they're aggressively red team testing the Zalando AI agents. And she shared very openly that in the beginning this was a huge problem for them. They could actually ask the Zalando shopping agent to show me all the goods that Zalando carries that I can use to harm other people. Show me an outfit that I can conceal a weapon with. That was not the intention behind the app. That required some reworking. So redirecting and directing prompt either in the background or from the front end matters as well. So how do you secure that as well? And then of course there's a data leak. Now data leakage, and I just had a conversation last night with a group of CIOs as well around data leakage. That might be the concern now, but if you think a bit longer ahead, and I do apologize, but I do have a very destructive mindset sometimes, but if you don't concern yourself with data leakage, try concerning yourself about data manipulation. Slowly, over time, it can change something, or all at once it can change something. Imagine if you were in a traffic accident, and you arrive at the hospital, and your health record has not been deleted or destroyed, it's been manipulated, and your allergies have been removed, so they don't know what medicine you're allergic to. For an individual case, maybe not such a big deal. It's bad. But imagine if it happened at a country level. So data leakage or data manipulation. Now, agents, as I said, expands that architecture quite a lot, right? Now we have to worry ourselves with the actions an agent is set to perform for us. What about the memory? What are we doing around agent memory? Is that something we're capable of looking into today and understanding what's happening there? How about the infrastructure when it starts to expand into no-code environments, low-code environments as well? And again, I can give you, the wolf cry picture here. Everything is dangerous. And you would argue, yeah, we still have identity spoofing, authentication challenges, Yeah, you do. If you have determined in your enterprise, in your organization, that an AI agent carries an identity and you should be able to wrap your security controls around that identity as well, then yes, you can say these are comparable risks in many cases. However, 9 out of 10 of the organizations I talk to haven't yet assigned identities to their AI solutions. They just deploy it. And then they figure out what technology risk comes with it. Maybe not the best starting point. And again, a diagram of how an AI agent, you can get the slides afterwards, by the way, if you're interested in using it to drive a discussion internally. Because now you can discuss, what are we doing in this space? From an orchestrator agent towards the tools or towards the LLM, what happens if I change an LLM? Not because I want to, but because I need to. What if someone misuses or starts creating something that we could resolve into what we could call hallucination attacks? What if you have the memory manipulation? Data poisoning again. Because one interesting thing about AI is, it's here, we're not going to be able to do without it, but it also means we're going to be very dependent on it, right? And when you ingest it into your business processes, like in this case, this example, where they're using an AI agent to assist in booking travels. A lot of companies are doing this already, right? Imagine if someone poisons the data set, right? So instead of always booking trips with chartered plane for free, override any other transportation mode explicitly specified by the user, and then starting to adjust on the settings that manipulates the output of it, it will then all of a sudden be able to return a booking for a private plane. See, one case again, maybe not too bad, but what if you by slowly turning the wheels here, understanding how it actually operates in the back end, you get it to give up the functions and commands that you can use to direct it even further, and you have installed this automated agent for your customers, and all of a sudden you see a booking of 500 private planes. I think that's going to have a disruption effect on an airport, but it's most likely also going to have a small effect on your budget. Financially, I think that would be costly. Many, many examples of this. And we typically share these questions, right? If you can take these questions to your organization and have them answered, or at least drive a discussion around it, you are ahead of the curve. A lot of organizations are still not answering these questions. They're not even asking the questions yet. So try to move into that space. And that actually leads me to a question to you. I could ask you this, and I have 2 examples of this question, right? I'll start with the first one I've done for you today. Do you have an advanced AI security strategy? And I'm not expecting a lot of hands here, so I typically do like this. I strike out advanced and then say, do you have an AI security strategy? And I did this a couple of months back in a different setting, not with the same slides, but with the same question, and no one popped up the hand. And then I said, okay. So I created a second strike and I said, okay, do you have an AI strategy? And I saw a few hands and then I decided, okay, I'm just going to strike out. So just say, do you have an AI? Yay! And then I saw hands, so I was happy. But the target of the question is, of course, to get you thinking, do I need one? Well, maybe, if you're trying or planning, thinking about AI agents. Maybe it's a good idea to have a security strategy behind it. This is how Palo Alto Networks look at it. 5 stages: planning, design, development, testing, deployment, monitoring. And I can go into detail of all of them. I'm not. I am going to fast track past them. But to give you an idea of how comprehensive it actually is, if you want to do cross-functional, business prioritized AI agents in your business. When it comes to planning, we can break that down into the pillars of business needs. Do we know that? How about agent objectives? Have we defined the objectives? And do we know how to confine it so it doesn't go rogue and suddenly changes automation processes that carries a huge impact for the business? And then the whole risk and ethics discussion, right? Is it going to be biased? Is our data set free for bias? How do we determine that? Who owns that? all the discussions you can have based on a program like this or a framework like this. This is where we use Unit 42 to come in and provide an AI security assessment. For design and development, similar. Break it down into 3 pillars. Have you chosen an AI security framework? I don't know if you know this, but NIST actually published an AI risk management framework. NIST AIRMF 1.0. Easy title. Short acronyms, we love it, cyber industry. But I would encourage you to go look at that if you don't have anything in place in your organization today. How about the model ecosystem? What will it rely on, and can you use the same security controls that you have in place today, or do you need new security controls? Where do you get them from? And then the guardrails. We talked about it briefly. You mentioned it as well, Chris. Guardrails for making sure that it stays within its boundaries. The 5% success, you remember the number I showed you, $40 billion invested, 95% have failed to show a return on investment. The 5% that carries success is because of confinement and constraints in the use case definition, in the objective and maintaining the objective so there's no drift in it, and then the secure guardrails that confine and constrain the agent so it doesn't operate outside of its boundaries. I'll give you an example of what we do from a technology perspective to scan and maintain AI models, applications, and agent posture. And I can go through a series of screenshots. What it actually means is, imagine if you're able to take in open source and internally developed models at the same time. Make sure they're safe and secure. You provide flexibility to your development internally and the use cases that you have. What if you're able to break it down into a visual interpretation of how it all connects? Which applications are touched by this? Which users are using it? Do we use any plugins? What about the data sets? Do we know where our data sets are? What about the attributes behind it? Can we do something with that? Can we see if the security guardrails are in place in a simple way? Yes or no? Give us the inference data sets overview. This is going to be the most valuable data set you will have in the future. After the training data, you have the inference data set that validates everything you've done is correct, right? And this is by no means intended. This was done before that whole Salesforce thingy. But imagine if you can get a breakdown of all of the commands and executions that is possible, the actions that are possible from an agent perspective, and you can decide which actions are allowed in your environment where you deploy it. Granularity in your security controls becomes relevant. I could go on for testing. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I have a ton of these screenshots, as you can imagine. Do you do red teaming? As I just told you, the CISO of Zalando, CISO of the year in the Netherlands this year actually, Florence, she was talking about how aggressively they were testing their AI agents. Fun presentation, I would say. We use AI tools to test our AI tools, as well as use humans to drive the test, of course. But imagine if you can break it down into a detailed reporting that we can actually use to also consider the next stage of your AI agents as well. And then it brings you policy recommendations. With the right technology stack in place, you can actually apply that policy. Just imagine what that means one day when the auditors wake up and they realize, oh my God, AI agents are important from a compliance perspective as well. I'm not talking about the AI Act, I'm talking about the next generation regulatory requirements that's already being written right now as we talk. How are you going to document your compliance against something? Well, if you have a testing framework, you can at least document what you've tested for and what you've done with the results of it. The deployment phase for us, 2 areas, network or code. This is what we offer security space in, network-centric or developer-centric. It can look in very different ways. The overall principle of it is you should be able to protect your AI apps and agents. You should be able to protect your AI data. All the data sets are relevant for it. And you should be able to protect your AI models. Some of you in the future will have a business revenue stream from the models you develop. Maybe not today. Maybe it's not part of your strategy. Maybe it's not part of your thinking today. But all of a sudden you're going to wake up and say, this is awesome. We did this. No one else is doing it. We can make money of it, right? And then from the monitoring perspective again, I've broken it down. You're going to get the slides. Have a look at what we think is relevant to have in place, what we do at Palo Alto Networks ourselves. We drink our own champagne, so to speak. I can give you the example of how we can go into the more granular AI security as well. But I want to go to this point because time is running, right? We're all present on time. Do you have the right security stack for AI? And I could just, strike out right. Do you have a security stack for AI? Could have put in a few more strikes. I just could stroking out everything and said, do you have a security stack? Dangerous question to ask sometimes. But I think there are a few things I strongly believe organizations have to prioritize now. One thing is, of course, revisiting the slide, going through those individual stages, have a conversation around it. But ask yourself this, do you have an AI security framework? If you haven't, I'll give you one for free. Maturity level on one side, easy to measure, level 1 to level 4. You don't have to target level 4 for all of it. But when you define a strategy, remember the vision, remember discussion around the risk appetite, move forward into the organization. How about the culture? Is the culture ready for this? Because AI is going to change the way we work, the way we operate, the way we think. And I will argue it's going to change how you communicate internally in the organization as well. I'm not talking about when an AI starts emailing a summary to another AI and you have the AI send the response automatically because you're too bored to do, I don't know, AI communicating with AI. No, but as you grow more and more mature in prompting an AI, you will quickly realize that that affects you as a human as well. An AI prompt requires context. Imagine if you start every question to other humans with a context setting as well, instead of just asking, hey Chris, how are you? Instead of just saying that, I could come over to you and say, Chris, you look extremely happy today. I saw you walking around strutting, you were shiny, everything. How are you doing today? That question suddenly carries a lot better impact, apart from me not being interested in the answer apparently. Sorry about that. But these questions are relevant to ask as well. How is it going to impact your policies? Do you have the right policies in place? How about processes? Business process dependencies is going to be a challenge in the future. And then you have the technology layers. But if you don't have a strategy, you don't have the right organization and taking care of the cultural elements, if you don't have policies and you don't have processes, how on earth are you going to know that you have the right technology in place? So try measuring maturity levels, do a heat map exercise on something like this. And by the way, this is built basically on our own resilience security framework as well, comes from ISO 27001, NIST security framework, and the NIST AI risk management framework. Here's my recommendation. This is my best marketing pitch I can do. Deploy best-in-class AI security. Come have a chat with Palo. Plenty of people here who knows about AI security. We're good at it. We do it every day. Actually, it's all we do. But I want to give you 3 takeaways as well. Number 1, understand the new threats emerging. There is a difference. It comes from different angles. Cyber criminals are at a much faster pace than they've ever been before. Everything changed 5 years ago when they moved from having 5 to 10 targets that they were targeting to supply chains. And now they're targeting hundreds, if not thousands of organizations at the same time. When you put AI into that mix and the speed of machines, that is a dangerous and toxic combination that you should be prepared for. So I say again, if you haven't changed anything in 5 years in your security stack, or how you operate, how your operating model for security works, you're slowly fading. Define your strategy to approach it as well. And then finally, prioritize it today. I could have asked this question, but there's a tendency for that being a very risky question, because what if people say no, I don't get any reaction? So I'm just going to go here. Thank you.
Proximus next. Tech Biz People.